What
Mhm.
core leadership lessons translate across those different worlds?
I think all of them do. A nonprofit is just an organization that doesn't pay taxes. We have employees, we have staff, we have challenges, we have finances. We call them different. We call it a surplus. We don't call it a profit, but it's still more money than it's our net.
Let's talk about AI valuation. What inspired you to jump into AI, and how does it serve organizations in a real practical way?
If you talked to me a year ago today and mentioned the word AI, I have no time for it.
What's the biggest misconception that you've heard people have about AI?
Oh, the biggest misconception, it's hard to learn. It's not much of a value added. They underestimate the power of AI. And we are in the nascent stages of AI.
In your workshops, you talk about the power of truth. What does that mean in business, and how do you live it?
It's the fundamentals.
He's helped nonprofits grow, founded an AI company operating on 3 continents, and survived personal storms most of us cannot imagine. Ken Miller joins us to talk about resilience, leadership, and how technology and truth can transform your life. So, welcome to the show, Ken.
Well, thank you, Mike. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm glad we finally were able to connect. I appreciate your patience and everything in leading up to this. So, your story's interesting. It has a lot of highs, it has a lot of lows. How did hitting rock bottom reshape your approach to leadership?
So when I hit rock bottom, and I hit rock bottom on numerous occasions, but let's just talk about the last one. So on my last arrest, I'm a 3-time convicted felon. Spent many years behind bars due to my drug addiction. And when I laid on the bunk in the jail on the way to prison for the 3rd time, I had to make a decision. And that decision that I made that day was to do something different because I was just doomed to continually going in and out of prison and or dying on the streets. So I made that decision, and that decision was to work on both physical, emotional, spiritual, and intellectual aspects of who I was as a person. And I've taken all those skills, literally all those things that I've worked on while locked up. I did 3 years on the last bit to become the leader that I am today, and I am a leader.
So, how did that time in prison influence the way you now lead your team and support clients?
Well, first of all, let's look at each of them. The physical is easy. I had to get back into physical shape because a lot of times when you physically feel well, you also have an opportunity or you have a sense of treating people better because I feel good. I feel good. I feel healthy. Therefore, I'm going to manifest that in my actions and my communications with others. So we'll take care of the physical. The next one is the emotional. I needed an emotional grounding. I needed some emotional intelligence. I needed some ability to be mature and have discernment in my dealings with others because I wasn't. I was an individual that reacted instead of acted on input coming in from outside sources. So as a leader, I know one of the most important things is I can control the gap between information that's coming in. Sometimes that is a challenge to the organization or the company, and what do I do in action due to those circumstances. So that was one of the great things I learned, is to become, let's say, emotionally centered. And I could speak about that for a long time. Then there was the intellectual. Literally, I sometimes tell people my brain had atrophied. It had literally, just because of it wasn't being used on the streets. And so what I did is I started reading, and at one point, not even one point, I ended up reading over 120 books in 1 year. 120 in 1 year. What else am I going to do? So I worked on the intellectual, and then the other one is I worked on the spiritual. And in all of the areas, probably the most important outside of emotional was the spiritual, just the spiritual grounding on doing God's will as opposed to my will, what's going to make Ken feel better and or allows Ken to feel less pain. Sometimes we have to deal with pain. And as a leader, I have to deal with that which is uncomfortable many times in making decisions that are good for the organization as a whole.
That totally makes sense. I mean, you've led nonprofits and tech companies. What
Mhm.
core leadership lessons translate across those different worlds?
I think all of them do. A nonprofit is just an organization that doesn't pay taxes. We have employees, we have staff, we have challenges, We have finances. We call them different. We call it a surplus. We don't call it a profit, but it's still, more money than it's our net. Okay. So many of the skill sets, if not all of the skill sets of the companies that I own and run and or the nonprofits that I have led, and I've led a couple, they have pretty much the same skill sets are needed. I'm trying to think of something that is different. It's just really a tax status for a for-profit versus a not-for-profit. And the not-for-profit world, we could say, is sort of nicer. We're a little more gentle.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that because a lot of people have the impression that, a nonprofit operates completely differently, and it really doesn't. And the skills you learn elsewhere are translatable. So I thought that was an interesting thing. So let's talk about AI valuation. What inspired you to jump into AI, and how does it serve organizations in a real practical way?
Oh, I love that question. So if you talked to me a year ago today and mentioned the word AI, I say I have no time for it. I have some other businesses and I'm too busy for it, don't care about it. I'm 62 years old or 61 at the time. I'm going to be retiring in a few years. Not interested, not interested. And then I went and I was talking to a few different individuals last summer, and the one individual said that he was doing some stuff in AI. And I'm like, why? I mean, we're in the nonprofit world, we're in the fundraising world. Why? And he explained to me, and it made me, which is a very interesting term, made me curious. And then once I understood AI and understood it on a very, very fundamental, rudimentary way, I was like, wow, this is interesting. Let me dive into this a little more. And how I dived into it, I did YouTube videos to start. And then I joined with a community called AI Foundations, which I highly recommend. It is phenomenal. And I probably know more about AI than maybe 90% of the people out there because I own a company now that works in AI. And I could speak on that again long, but that's the technical part. The key component as a leader, 100%, if you are a true leader, this is my opinion, you need to learn AI, period, period. You need to learn AI. Okay, that's number one. Number two, why? You need to have an understanding of at least the fundamentals of what artificial intelligence is and what it's going to do for your future. We have an old saying that AI is not going to replace you, but AI, people that know AI are going to replace you. And I believe that's the same for companies. Companies and organizations that are not using AI for profit or not for profit are going to be hindered because it is such a time saver, literally a time saver, and also it allows you to understand best practices very, very well. So I can elaborate on any aspect of AI, but that, so let me just go back in. So what I started was last November. I started looking at the videos. And then in December, late December, I signed up with AI Foundations, and they have like 100 courses. And I took all the courses in LLMs, large language models, AI image, AI audio, AI video, and what we call workforce automations. I did the 6 different modules, over 100 courses. It took me about 2 months, but I dived into it and I know the topic well.
That's really an interesting way to get into AI. Like literally know nothing about it.
Simple.
And hey, shout out to YouTube for helping you get your start there. That's kind of interesting to me. So one thing I've noticed in my research about you is you like to be vulnerable. I mean, you even started out, the show today being vulnerable. How has that become a leadership superpower for you, vulnerability?
Well, it makes me human, number one. Instead of being on the pedestal as the leader, the boss, the manager, the owner of the company or organization, I'm vulnerable. And what it says is that I'm fallible because my vulnerability is my setbacks. is my challenges that I've had along the way on my journey. And I'm just saying, I'm human. And I know that you're human too. And I see you, I acknowledge you. And to allow you to engender trust of me, I am going to let down my guard and let you experience my humanness. This has been my experience. This is what I did. And most importantly, this is how I overcame it. And so if you have a concern, a challenge, or a problem, bring it to me. You see, I've been human. I've let down mine and share it with me or share it with HR or share it with another trusted advisor. And let's get past this challenge, this concern. And I do that by, again, being very, very vulnerable. What I do is I've said this many times from the stage and on different podcasts and different areas that I speak. I took away the power of the secret. Then I'm talking about the negative power of the secret. And because I have no secrets, zero secrets. Now, there's things I will not share about my family because it's my family. But about me, 100%, I have no secrets. It's in the book.
Well, and and like it made me think like vulnerability is an interesting thing, and it kind of disarms people so that they're a little more comfortable speaking about maybe something that maybe they wouldn't have been so comfortable speaking about. Because you're being vulnerable to them, so they're going to be vulnerable back. I mean, it kind of makes me think about like the rap artist Eminem. He had the movie 8 Mile, and the way he won the way he won the rap battle was to diss himself at the end. So when he gets to the last battle, instead of letting the other guy bring up all this negative stuff about him, he brings up all the negative stuff. And then when it's the guy's turn with the mic, the guy stands there and is like, "Wow, I've nothing left I can say about you. I guess this diss battle's over." And that's how he won, was just by being vulnerable and being like, you know what? I know everything bad about me, so here I'm just going to tell it to you. And now the other guy has nothing to say. You've all heard from me, and I think for leaders that's the best way, because when we go through struggles, be it with maybe we're going through divorce or potential divorce, people we work with eventually hear about it through the rumor mill, and I personally have always felt that I would rather my people hear things like that from me and be a little more vulnerable and like let my guard down, because I believe that teams are like a family, and everybody has their spot and thing that they do, and you let them do that. But as the leader, you kind of have to show them from time to time that you're human. You make mistakes too, and I think what you said there, about I'm human too, is huge. More leaders need to hear that. So, what's the biggest misconception that you've heard people have about AI?
Oh, the biggest misconception, probably the biggest misconception is it's hard to learn. It's hard to learn because it's hard to learn, and or that it's not much of a value added. They underestimate the power of AI. And we are in the nascent stages of AI. It's been around 2, 3 years. It's really been around 20, 30 years, but let's just talk about the LLMs, the large language models, the ChatGPTs, the Geminis, the Groks, if for Claude. If we're looking at those, we're talking about maybe 3 years. Okay. And people think it's going to be hard. The learning curve is hard, number one. And then number two, what value added really would it be for me? And both of those are misconceptions. Number one, it is actually, if you know where to go and how to learn, it is quite easy to learn. I learned, again, I probably know not more than 90%. And I'm not saying this as a brag. I've spent the time, took me 2 months, but I know AI. I understand it. And then the other thing is the value added part about it is how do I use it? Because remember, AI in many cases, this is talk about the large language models, it's only as good as the questions you ask. What is your prompt? What is your query? And so if you ask bad questions, you're not really going to get really good answers. If you don't know how to do follow-up prompting or intermediate prompting, and you can learn all this, it'll make it difficult. And one of the greatest things about AI is you can ask AI to help me to learn this subject better. How would I learn this subject better? Okay, how would I learn AI better? Set me up 2 month plan or a 1 month plan or a 1 week plan, and it'll do it, and it'll give you a great one.
No, it's true. I actually, years ago when I was in high school, I mean, you and I are almost the same age. I'm 60.
Yeah.
And
Mhm,
when I was in high school, I played guitar and
mhm,
I, took lessons and then got started in a career, got married, had children, and kind of put the guitar aside. And so 3 years ago, I came back to it and started taking lessons. And then after a certain point, the instructor I was with just wasn't doing it for me. And so I tried to do some stuff on my own for about a year, and then recently I picked up a new instructor, and he teaches me um, music theory a lot more than the other person. And
mhm.
so I started having a little struggle with one particular piece. And I just went to ChatGPT and I just regurgitated all that stuff to it. And then I said, okay, I'm trying to learn this. I'd like to spend about 10 minutes a day on this topic. Give me a plan. And it wrote me out a plan that then I showed to my guitar instructor, and he was like, "Who gave you this? This is perfect. This will work perfectly." I mean, I encourage people like to use ChatGPT for things like that, but also check out the results that you get because it's
Oh
only
yeah.
as good as as you said, it's only as good as the input, but it's also only as good as the data it's collected. I mean, the prompt is everything, right? Like if you don't have the right prompt, you can't really pull everything out of it that you can expect. I just recently used deep research mode on
Mhm.
ChatGPT and was quite impressed with what it came with some of the like nuances that it came up with about the place I was researching. So you have a global business. You're in
Mhm.
the US, you're in Philippines, you're in West Africa. How are you managing to maintain that without losing the human-centered mission?
You mean with your people?
Yes.
I communicate. I communicate. Not only that, I'm a nice guy. So, they'll come to me, hey, can I take this day off? Or I have something to do with my family. And remember, they're in areas that are third world, second world. And I've made a decision to be very, very open to being having some allowance for you being a human and raising your family or whatever you may be doing. So that's number one. Number two is, you know, uh, consistent communication. Number three is being open, vulnerable, and I let people know I bring up the finances for the whole business. I don't hide. I'm not a finance hidden person. And again, this is my style. This is what works for me. I'm very, very open. So they know all the numbers for the business. And like I said, I have people in 3 different countries. And working with those individuals, I choose to just be open with the numbers, the books, and then I take care of them financially. I mean, they get paid well for where they're at. And I made sure because I was a little surprised when you start working offshore, how compared to the United States money, how 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 much less it is. So that's how I do it. Mainly communication is so important.
Yeah, it's a discussion I've had with many clients because
Mm.
like offshore resources, they also forget that like in the Philippines, I think it's less than $2. I don't remember the exact amount, is minimum wage for an entire day, not minimum wage like we're used to here being an hourly rate. That's their minimum wage for an entire day. So let's say it's $2. $60 a month. That's why you'll find Filipino people saying, "Oh, I'm happy with $7 an hour,"
Yep.
because I mean, they're going to make in an 8 hour day what they'd make all month minimum wage. So for them, they love it. And I think that's the thing that we have to look at when we're doing these things is I'm the same way as you. I like to pay the people well.
Mhm.
And what I've tended to do though is because I don't know what kind of employee they're going to be, I'll
Mhm.
hire them in around the rate that they're asking for and then take the first quarter to assess their performance
Right.
and
Right.
immediately start bumping the pay up to where I think it belongs for them because they never ask for, in my opinion, what they're actually worth. They ask for what they think you're willing to pay. In fact, a lot of them, if you say, well, I'm not sure, they immediately assume it's about the rate and they'll offer you a lower rate, which I generally give them a little coaching and say, don't do that. Stick to your rate, you know.
So let me share something on this. So
Sure.
by the person that I am, so what the company is called Evolution, artificial
Right.
intelligence, virtual assistance solution, but evolution. What I did is I went to AI Foundations and bought out of my pocket 15 seats so that they can learn AI because that's what I represent. That's what I offer are virtual assistants that are trained in AI and they are trained in all five aspects of AI. Okay, it's not just LLMs, AI image, AI video, AI audio, and then your workplace automations plus your LLMs. Okay. And my people are training that before we send them out. I start my people off at $4. Remember, I said I'm an open person. I start them at $4 an hour. I asked him, "Is this cool?" He said, "Ken, if I can make 225, I'm cool an hour." Okay. So I start them at 4, but most of my people are making 6 now. So you see how that works? So, but and then they got free training.
Right.
Free training that would have cost them hundreds of dollars. I'm giving them a seat in this community called AI Foundation so they can learn. I mean, it's a
Well,
win-win for both of us.
and it's something they can take with them,
For
you know,
sure. And they
into the
will.
future in their career.
They will.
And yeah, that's a great way to be. That's a great way to be. So in your workshops, you talk
Mhm.
about the power of truth. What does that
Yep.
mean in business and how do you live it?
It's the fundamental. It's the fundamental. So I teach a class. I'm doing a book study right now that's gone for 3, 4 months just on self-esteem. And the fundamental part of self-esteem is truth. It's truth. Okay. And when I talk about truth, is what is real? What are the facts? Because emotions are not truth. Emotions are an opinion that our brain creates that produces usually some type of physiological change in us anger, happiness, sadness. That's not truth. But what is the pragmatic intellectual truth to this situation? Because one of the things I work with a lot when I work with individuals I coach is I talk about problems and I say, what is a problem? A problem, very simply, is a set of circumstances that seeks an answer. That's all a problem is. 2 plus 2 is not a problem. 2 plus 2 equals is a problem. You got to have the equal or more than or less than. It seeks a solution. It's a set of circumstances. That's all it is. That's a problem. All problems. So when I work with it and I say, what's our fundamental? What is the truth? What's the truth about this challenge, this concern, this setback? Let's talk about the truth. Then we can try to solve for the facts, the reality. But a lot of people have problems with the truth. Let's be honest. A lot of people have problems with the truth. And a lot of people have problems with articulating what is the truth. They know it inside, but they don't want to say it out loud or say it to another person or even deal. They sometimes feel if I don't acknowledge the truth, it'll go away. Sometimes it does, but many times it doesn't. Okay.
It's it's funny. You're what you said there made me think back years and years ago when I was much, 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 much younger, probably a third of the way into my life. I was on my first marriage. We lived in an apartment building, and it's one of the and we had to come down these stairs, and the people at the bottom of the stairs were in the we were living in Beverly Hills, California, so they were in the movie industry, and
Mhm.
he he did photography, like photo shoots for models and she did makeup and hair. It was a perfect
Right.
marriage, right? Like they were perfect together. And it's that same thing. She used to complain to us, like when we became friends, she'd complain to us that her husband would like go to check the mail at the mailbox and he would look and he'd see a bill he didn't want to pay. He would tear it in half and throw it in the trash can because you know what? That bill, he didn't see it, so it doesn't exist. And I think you're right. I think a lot of people treat the truth that way. They don't really want to face the what the truth is, or maybe the truth contradicts what their perspective is, and so they pretend it doesn't exist. But I mean, just like the bill, the truth's going to come back to haunt you later, right? I mean, you really should tell the truth, and it's something I get in trouble for a lot because I'm I wouldn't say blunt, but I'm very honest and direct. And so like before getting on here today, I've been dealing with a client, an issue for a client, and I've been
Hmm.
working with technical support for a rather large company that I'm not going to name. And I
Hmm.
scheduled an appointment 2 weeks ago with them. They told me who needed to be on the call. I made sure all of those people would be on the call. And then 10 minutes before the call, they canceled the call and said, "Oh, well, we weren't sure if everybody was going to be available." And I said, "Hey, like let's be real about what happened. You didn't ask anybody if they were available. You just changed the time by 30 minutes. No one said anything, so it's probably safe to assume we were available. But then you just the day after a holiday, you cancel a call and you do it at like 5:30 in the morning. Who did you think was going to be awake at that time? I mean, like, and then they get all offended by it. And I said, why are you offended? I'm merely stating what happened. I scheduled a meeting. You changed it. So sometimes people don't even like to hear the truth, because it doesn't fit
Oh no.
with what's going on. So now you have a book coming out, or maybe is it out already?
Yeah, it came out on May 19th.
I knew because we were originally scheduled
Mhm.
earlier. So your book, it dives deep into your transformation. So why did you feel like now was the right time to share that?
The book, but I've been working on the book for 3 years. Okay. And there have been many times I could have just said, forget it. But I had a commitment, there's an integrity within me. I told people I was going to write the book, and I told myself that I was going to write the book. So I wrote the book. And it's the timing, like I said, it almost took 3 years, three ghostwriters, took a lot, took a lot, but I did it. I did it. It's not to be a bestseller, even though it is a Amazon bestseller. It's not to be a bestseller. I did it predominantly so I could speak more because I have a message that I love to share, whether for cost or for free. I share them. It's like this podcast. I just share a message of hope, resilience, especially for communities of color. I do a lot of that, and I work with a lot of young Black men. That's a specialty of mine because I know what happens. I was locked up with a lot of them, and I was one of them, who did not have the father figure. Da 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 da. So I wrote the book. It's out. I believe it's a good book. I wouldn't have put it out unless I thought it was. Three ghostwriters, and it's good for business people because there's lessons learned. So again, what happened to me on the streets or what happened to me in the penitentiary, there were lessons that can be taken into the corporate world. Well, how can you do that? Because what we're dealing with is people. And people have the same motives, whether you're on the street slinging drugs or doing whatever criminal activity, or you're in the corporate world leading a team of 20. You're still dealing with the vicissitudes of individuals. And so, anyway, I talked to that in there. And yeah, is the word proud? Yeah, I am proud. I'm proud I wrote the book because a lot of people say they're going to write a book like me. This was 10 years. Took 3 years since the first day I put pen to paper, but I've been talking about it for 10 years. Or people, more importantly, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. You need to write a book. I got tired of hearing it because they
You're
would
like,
hear
I'm
my
writing a book so
story.
they can stop telling me
Yeah,
that.
exactly. I did it. But it's so funny. This is like, Mike, you probably familiar with this. The first million is the hardest million to make. The first million. The first book is hard. I will write two more books. I already got them planned. I'm already started on. I'll have two more books done probably within 3 months. Okay.
It's really interesting that you say that because I too was in the same situation. And last year, I kind of wrote a guidebook about my coaching program, just kind of
Okay.
an overview.
Mhm.
And it took me a year and a half from the time I started to the time I finished. So a little faster than you, but still a year and a half. And I already finished a second book that's been published, and I'm working on a third. Because it just once you get going, you're absolutely right. It is kind of funny. It's almost like I always tell people when I go to the gym in the morning, I always go really early because that way things like what happened today with my client, they don't get in the way of gym time. And then they'll say, well, how do you do it? Like, how do you manage to motivate yourself at like 4:30 in the morning? And I say, it's like anything else. those first couple of steps out of bed, they're really hard.
Yep.
But then once you pull on your clothes and you just lace up your shoes and you climb in the car, after that, the rest is easy. You just do it. And I think writing a book's the same way. Once you get started and you finally get one out there, as long as you have others in you, which most people do,
Hmm.
it's not that hard to get them out. So what's something like you talk a lot about resilience?
Hmm.
What's one failure that now makes you laugh every time you think about it?
I got hundreds of them.
Well, pick one.
I know. I'm gonna give you that makes me laugh. One failure. Oh, let me think of. Hopefully, I have a good one. I'm getting ready to do a talk on smiling, and the first felony I had, which was home burglary, 1991. I go into the courtroom, and you can probably tell I can talk. I can talk. I can talk for hours. And I remember I'm in there and I'm just smiling and because I didn't really take it seriously. And the judge says to me, Mr. Miller, I am getting ready to sentence you for a class A felony. Do you have anything to say? And it hit me just in that moment. I had this profound, sublime moment of truth. I can't just walk out. I can't just ignore this. And I stood there like I was shocked. And I said, Your Honor, I have nothing to say. And that was a setback because I got sentenced to, 5 years intensive probation. I got lucky on that one. But that was the first time anything or anyone has probably ever shut me up because I understood that there was a point in time that from this point on, your whole life is going to be different. So there's one setback that I smile about now because I went in there smiling, thought this was funny. But he didn't care. I went to Dartmouth, didn't care. I grew up upper middle class, did not care. I used to be in the corporate world working for Kodak or 3M, didn't care. All he saw is these criminal activities and that I was a threat to the community. And he did what he needed to do.
So, what do you say to the person who's listening right now who feels like they've lost everything and they're
Mhm.
not sure if they'll ever come back from it?
What would I say to them? I talk about something specifically called the tyranny of the now. The tyranny of the now. You're stuck in the now. You're stuck in the present pain. And remember, pain is an interpretation. And what we really need to try to get out of is present pain and near future fear, because that's what you're also fearing. And then one of the things, and when I work with guys and I do a lot of mentoring, is one of the things I want to say is that you're worthy and that you are capable. Okay, it may take time. Took me years after I got out of the penitentiary to get to where I'm at today. But we can do that one small step at a time and just to get to that sense of that you are worthy. You're a quote unquote, if you believe, a child of God. And here you have an opportunity, but let's take a step. And then the other thing is get grounded in the truth and share that with someone. It could be a pastor, it could be a good friend, it could be a partner, but share that this is what I'm feeling. This is my truth of this present moment, but I'm capable. And what do you suggest my next step is?
That's
Love it.
excellent. That's excellent. That's excellent. So this has been an interesting conversation. You have a lot to offer, and I like that it's easy for you to talk. A lot of times they get people on here and it's really difficult. They don't have much to say. So why don't you let our listeners know if they'd like to learn more about you and connect with you, how they can find you?
Couple things. Number one, if you'd like or you're interested in the book, you can scan the QR code or look up the book on Amazon. It's on Audible, softcover, hardcover, ebook. Then, if you're interested in me speaking, go to my website, Ken Miller Speaks. And then, probably the main one that I communicate with people in the beginning is just my LinkedIn, which is Ken Miller 84. That's the year I graduated from Dartmouth. So Ken Miller 84 is my LinkedIn handle, and I respond to everyone. Again, I have no fear. I respond to everyone. Okay.
I love it. I love it. So, Ken, thanks for being here on the show and bringing your unique perspective. Your journey from tech to purpose-driven leadership is a powerful reminder that what's possible when innovation meets intention. So, I appreciate your candor, your insight, and your mission. Just thanks for being here.
Thank you.
That was Ken Miller, AI innovator, nonprofit leader, and living proof that resilience is the real edge in leadership. If you want more powerful stories and honest conversations like this, join our community where leaders like you come to grow. More info on that is coming up right after the end of this episode, so stay tuned for that. New episodes drop every Wednesday, so hit follow, and we'll see you next week.